Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we will dive into the haunting phone call Melissa Dillon just received. The terrifying possibility of Luna Nozawa's resurrection from the dead, and the psychological labyrinth of blackmail and paranoia that has suddenly consumed the Forrester design office. Let us be honest about what we just watched. Before we even begin to dissect the plot, before we attempt to unravel the twisted, suffocating threads of returning ghosts and digital deception, we must pause and look at the lighting in that Forrester Creations design office. It was stark, almost clinical in its cruelty. The shadows clung to the corners of the room like unresolved trauma, framing Melissa Dillon in a pool of artificial, unforgiving light. She looked so incredibly small, isolated in a glass cage of high fashion and generational deceit. I find myself wondering if anyone else feels this strange ache when looking at these characters in their quietest, most vulnerable moments. Dillon, standing there clutching her phone, is not merely a woman receiving a threatening call. She is a manifestation of the inescapable dread that defines this universe. The phone rang. It is such a simple, mundane sound, yet, in this world, it is the tolling of a funeral bell. The existential weight of a ringing phone in Los Angeles is something we have all grown numb to over the decades. But today, the dissonance was palpable, heavy enough to crush the air out of the room. We heard the voice disguise metallic scraping against the eardrum, with a chilling promise of unfinished business. But as the scene unfolded, as the digital modulation seemed to slip and fracture, Dillon's face registered a horror that transcended the immediate moment. The realization hit her like a physical blow. And sitting in the dark of my living room watching the screen glow, I felt a familiar, weary resignation wash over me. It was Luna Nozawa. Of course it was Luna. She is not dead. Death in this fictional Los Angeles is merely a waiting room, a temporary cessation of narrative utility. The Sisyphean nature of mortality on this show is a pathology all its own. We watch these people mourn. We watch them weep over empty graves, and yet the earth always yields its dead. But let us look deeper into the psychology of this resurrection. Luna has not just survived. She has been gestating in the shadows, incubating a rage that is as pure as it is terrifying. She claims that Dillon has stolen her life, her career, her identity, and most importantly, the man she loves, Will Spencer. It is a fascinating, terrifying accusation. To be accused of stealing a life implies that life is a tangible commodity, a dress that can be slipped off one mannequin and placed upon another. And in the world of Forrester Creations, is that not exactly how human existence operates? People are entirely interchangeable. Dillon stepped into the void left by Luna, taking her physical space, her professional trajectory, and her romantic proximity to Will. Luna's rage is the rage of a discarded understudy, watching her replacement accept the applause. It is a deeply voyeuristic, terrifyingly human fear, the fear that we are entirely replaceable. Dillon's reaction to this voice was a masterclass in suppressed panic. She did not scream, she froze. The paralysis of a woman who realizes that the ground beneath her feet is entirely made of glass and the cracks are spreading. Luna did not merely threaten her, she weaponized the past. She threatened to expose a horrifying secret from Dillon's life before she ever arrived in Los Angeles. Why must they all have a dark past? It dawned on me today that Los Angeles in this narrative ecosystem is not a city of angels. It is a purgatory for the reinvented. Every character arrives with a clean slate that is fundamentally stained with original sin. We, the audience, sit back and wait for the skeletons to break down the closet doors. It is a voyeuristic thrill, yes. But it is also a tragic commentary on the impossibility of true escape. You cannot outrun who you were, because the people you left behind will always find a phone and dial your number. Dillon is now faced with the eternal cyclical dilemma of this universe. Does she tell Will the truth? Or does she suffer in silence, capitulating to the blackmail? We already know the answer. We know it because we have watched this exact psychological trap spring shut 1,000 times before. She will keep the secret. She will internalize the poison. The arrested development of these characters dictates that they are fundamentally incapable of honest communication. To tell the truth would be to defuse the bomb, and these people are addicted to the ticking. They are addicted to their own suffering. But then a fascinating wrinkle emerged in Dillon's panicked mind, a moment of profound cognitive dissonance. What if it is not Luna? What if the voice is an AI-generated simulacrum, a digital deepfake designed to break her sanity? This is where the show briefly transcends its own soapy confines and touches upon a very modern, very existential terror. The idea that our voices, our very essences, can be cloned and weaponized against the people we love. Dillon immediately suspected Ivy Forrester. And can we blame her? Let us consider Ivy for a moment. Ivy Forrester is a woman who operates with a terrifying clinical sociopathy. We just watched her coldly, unrepentantly look Elektra in the eye and admit that she orchestrated the destruction of Elektra's relationship with Will. She stole a letter. She discarded a necklace. She played God with human hearts and felt absolutely zero remorse. Yes, I did, and I'd do it all over again, she declared. Ivy is not just a meddling aunt. She is a psychological terrorist wrapped in haute couture. If she is willing to destroy her own niece's happiness simply to keep her away from Miss Spencer, why wouldn't she use artificial intelligence to emotionally waterboard Melissa Dillon? The pathology of the Forrester family is rooted in control. They do not love, they possess. They curate their family members like museum exhibits. If Ivy is indeed behind this, using the digital ghost of Luna Nozawa to drive Dillon out of town, it is a masterstroke of psychological warfare. It preys on Dillon's survivor's guilt. It preys on her imposter syndrome. But if Dillon is wrong, if this is not a silicon trick, but the actual breathing, vengeful Luna, then the impending shockwave will level them all. I sat there watching Dillon tremble, and I found myself reflecting heavily on the passage of time. I looked at the screen, at the Forrester office that has maintained the exact same architectural geometry for decades, and I felt a profound surreal grief. I have aged, my life has fractured, rebuilt itself, and evolved in ways I could never have anticipated when I first started watching the show. I have loved, I have lost, I have moved homes, I have buried people, yet here is Ridge Forrester, still having the exact same argument about the exact same women. Here's the Forrester-Spencer feud, a generational curse that has simply been passed down to RJ and Will. RJ is currently weaponizing his bloodline, telling Will that he is not even a Forrester, while Will fires back with the exact same venom their fathers used. It is a terrifying illusion of time standing still. They are trapped in an endless cyclical loop of trauma, fighting over the same real estate, the same fashion lines, the same women. Will Spencer is the eternal prize in this current iteration of the loop. He is the chalice that Electra Dillon and now the Ghost of Luna are all reaching for. But why? What is it about these men that reduces intelligent, capable women to shivering paranoid wrecks? It is not love. It is the desperate need for validation within a patriarchal structure that rewards women only when they are chosen. Luna's rage is not just about losing Will. It is about losing her place in the narrative hierarchy. Without Will, she was discarded. She became a ghost long before she was presumed dead. I confess there are moments I feel genuinely moved by this spectacle, even though I know, with absolute certainty, that I am being emotionally manipulated by a team of writers desperate to fill 18 minutes of airtime. I know the strings are there. I can see the puppeteers. But when Dillon's eyes welled with tears, when the sheer weight of her past threatened to crush her in that sterile office, my heart broke for her. It is a strange complicity we share, you and I. We watch these people suffer, we diagnose their arrested development, we critique their foolish choices, and yet we return. We return because there is something deeply comforting about their lack of growth. In a real world that is chaotic, unpredictable, and often cruel, the Sisyphean tragedy of Los Angeles is a constant. We know that Steffi will cry on a cliff edge. We know that Brooke will stare longingly out a window. We know that a dead character will eventually pick up a phone. If Luna Nozawa is truly alive, her return will not just be a plot twist. It will be an apocalyptic event for these characters. She is the physical embodiment of their buried sins coming back to demand payment. She is the past refusing to stay in the ground. Dillon's terror is entirely justified. She is standing on the tracks, and she can hear the whistle of the train. But her feet are cemented in the moral ambiguity of her own hidden history. Will she tell Will? Will she confess whatever horrifying secret she brought with her to Los Angeles? Or will she pack her bags, abandon the beach house, and flee into the night, allowing the ghosts of Luna to reclaim her stolen life? I suppose I am asking too much from a daytime drama to expect a resolution that involves honesty and psychological healing. They will choose the path of maximum destruction. They always do. They will lie, they will scheme, and they will bleed out their secrets slowly, painfully, over the course of 100 episodes. And I will be here, staring at the screen, drinking my wine at 3 a.m, wondering why I care so deeply for these beautiful, broken, entirely static souls. They are a mirror reflecting our own deepest fears, the fear that our past will catch up to us, the fear that we are replaceable, and the terrifying realization that no matter how fast we run, we are always ending up exactly where we started. Let us watch the fallout together. Let us watch the ghosts walk through the front door. Next, we will dive deep into Bill Spencer's absolute masterclass in corporate warfare as he uses the explosive, toxic drama at Forrester Creations to build the ultimate double Logan victory by poaching their top talent. Let us be completely real for a second, because the sheer level of absolute chaos unfolding at Forrester Creations right now is nothing short of legendary. And sitting right at the center of this impending corporate collapse is none other than Dollar Bill Spencer. I am literally screaming at my screen watching Bill maneuver through the situation, because this is the classic, ruthless, brilliant Bill Spencer we have been begging to see for years. He is not just watching the Forrester family tear themselves apart from the inside out. He is actively preparing to swoop in and pick the meat clean off their bones. And honestly, I am entirely here for it. I am totally Team Bill on this one. For decades, we have watched the Forresters sit on their high horses, acting like they are the undisputed, morally superior royalty of the Los Angeles fashion scene. But right now, their legacy is crumbling under the weight of their own petty jealousy, nepotism, and shocking betrayals. And Bill and Katie Logan Spencer are standing by ready to build an empire on those ashes. The launch of the Logan Fashion House has already made a massive, undeniable splash in the industry, and the irony of how it happened is just too delicious to ignore. Katie and Bill premiered Eric Forrester's own designs to launch their rival company. Can you believe it? The patriarch of Forrester Creations, the man whose name is on the building, literally handed his brilliant designs over to Katie. He approached her. He offered his work to her. Katie paid for those designs fair and square, and she used them to absolutely dazzle the press and the fashion world. The premiere event was a roaring success, with Bill and Katie beaming in front of the flashing cameras looking like the ultimate power couple ready to take over the world. And the absolute best part of this entire scenario is how deeply it is infuriating the rest of the Forrester family, especially Ridge and Brooke. Brooke Logan Forrester is absolutely losing her mind over this, and her hypocrisy is honestly staggering. She has the nerve to accuse Katie of being heartless and letting personal sibling issues dictate her business choices. But let us look at the history here, guys. Brooke has spent her entire life centering herself in every single family and corporate dynamic. Remember the Brooke's bedroom line. Remember when Brooke literally took over Forrester Creations and paraded around in lingerie on a bed in the showroom to stick it to Stephanie Forrester? Brooke has weaponized business for personal vendettas more times than anyone can count. So for her to stand there and act appalled that Katie is finally stepping out of her shadow and building something of her own with the Logan name is just rich. Katie is defiantly refusing to back down, and I am cheering for her. She is focused entirely on her future. And Bill is standing right beside her, completely unconcerned about any backlash from Ridge or Brooke. Bill knows they have done absolutely nothing wrong legally or ethically. They bought the designs, they launched the brand, they are winning. But winning on the runway is just phase 1 of Bill Spencer's grand master plan. Phase 2 is where the true psychological and corporate warfare begins. And it all revolves around the absolute dumpster fire that is currently raging in the Forrester Creations executive offices. The tension between RJ Forrester and Will Spencer has escalated from passive-aggressive snark into a full-blown physical brawl. Yes, you heard me right. A shoving match right in the middle of the Forrester showroom. Carter Walton had to physically step in and break up these two grown men, who are acting like feral teenagers fighting over a high school crush. And while Ridge Forrester wants to stand there and give hypocritical lectures about how Forrester Creations is a fashion house and not a boxing ring, he is completely failing to recognize that his own son RJ is the primary instigator of this toxic environment. I have to get this off my chest because RJ's behavior lately is absolutely insufferable. He is walking around that building dripping with unearned arrogance, acting like his last name gives him a free pass to harass Will and claim Electra Forrester as his personal property. RJ is constantly slamming Will, calling him a sleazy, greedy Spencer, and weaponizing the Forrester legacy to make Will feel like an outsider in his own workplace. But RJ pushed too hard, and Will finally snapped and dropped a nuclear bomb of a truth that had me jumping out of my chair. Will fired back at RJ with the ultimate insult: "You're not even a Forrester." That is crazy. Let us unpack that for a second, because newer viewers might not fully grasp the monumental weight of that statement. Will is referencing the deeply buried, incredibly sensitive family secret regarding Ridge's true paternity. For those who need a history lesson, back in 2001, it was revealed that Ridge Forrester is not biologically Eric Forrester's son. Stephanie Forrester had an affair with the ruthless shipping magnate Massimo Marone. Ridge is a Marone. That means RJ, biologically speaking, has absolutely zero Forrester blood running through his veins. He is a Marone and a Logan. So for RJ to stand there and act like he is the pureblood heir to the Forrester throne while treating Will like trash is biologically laughable. Will. Hitting him with that reality check was a masterstroke of psychological warfare. And it proves that Will has that ruthless Dollar Bill Spencer DNA in him after all. Ridge, of course, is completely useless in handling this. He refuses to fire Will, but he also refuses to actually discipline RJ in any meaningful way. Brooke is even worse. Instead of telling her son to act like a professional, She listens to his whining and tells him to follow his heart and go after Elektra. Brooke is actively enabling RJ's toxic, obsessive pursuit of a woman who is only single because she was the victim of a massive, cruel manipulation. And that brings us to the absolute darkest, most twisted part of this entire storyline, Ivy Forrester. If you thought Ivy was just being a little meddlesome, you need to brace yourselves, because her recent actions have crossed the line from petty interference into straight-up sociopathy. For weeks, Ivy has been the invisible puppet master orchestrating the destruction of Elektra and Will's relationship. She stole Elektra's deeply personal letter. She deliberately discarded the WE necklace to make it look like Will had callously thrown Elektra's love in the trash. She manufactured a heartbreak so profound that it shattered her own niece's world, all to clear the path for RJ. And she did it right under everyone's noses at Forrester Creations. But the truth always comes out on a soap opera, and the catalyst for Ivy's downfall is none other than Daphne Rose Walton. Daphne has been carrying the crushing weight of this secret for weeks. She has been struggling with her own personal heartbreak, dealing with a negative pregnancy test after genuinely believing she and Carter were expecting a baby. Amidst her own emotional turmoil, the guilt of watching Elektra suffer became too much to bear. Carter advised Daphne to stay out of it to keep her hands clean of the Forrester drama. But Daphne is a fundamentally moral person. She could not stomach the cruelty anymore. She cornered Elektra at Forrester Creations and spilled the entire ugly truth. Elektra's reaction was absolutely heartbreaking to watch. At first, she lived in pure denial. She insisted there had to be some mistake, arguing that her aunt, the woman she trusted and partnered with for their jewelry line, could not possibly be that cruel. But Daphne stood her ground, laying out exactly how Ivy stole the letter and manipulated the necklace. The horror that washed over Elektra's face as the realization set in was palpable. Suddenly, all of Ivy's constant trash talking about Will's character, all of her aggressive pushing toward RJ made sickening sense. So, Elektra marches off to confront Ivy, and this is where the storyline elevates to a whole new level of dark. Elektra backs Ivy into a corner, demanding her letter back, demanding answers for the betrayal. And how does Ivy react? Does she break down in tears? Does she beg for forgiveness? Absolutely not. Ivy Forrester looks her niece dead in the eye with zero shame, zero guilt, and coldly defends her actions. She explicitly admits to the entire scheme and then delivers a line that sent shivers down my spine. Yes, I did, and I do it all over again. I despise Ivy in this moment. I truly do. This is not love. This is not protection. This is an arrogant, elitist Forrester complex, where she believes she has the divine right to play God with other people's lives just because she dislikes the Spencer name. Ivy views Will as just another toxic Spencer man who will bring Elektra emotional turmoil, completely ignoring the fact that she is the one inflicting the maximum amount of pain on her own family. Ivy's unapologetic betrayal leaves Elektra entirely shattered. This is the one person Elektra thought she could trust in Los Angeles, and she turned out to be a monster. Now Elektra is forced to rethink everything. Her separation from Will was built on a foundation of malicious lies. Her burgeoning dynamic with RJ has been entirely engineered by her aunt, and her professional life is suddenly toxic. How can Elektra possibly continue to work on a jewelry line with a woman who sabotaged her life and feels no remorse for it? Elektra is seriously contemplating bowing out of the jewelry line entirely, which would be a massive blow to Forrester Creations. And let us not forget the collateral damage in all of this, Melissa Dillon. Dillon has been caught in the crossfire of this Forrester-Spencer war, and she has handled it with far more grace than anyone else in that building. After receiving her first paycheck from Forrester Creations, Elektra cruelly used that as leverage to demand Will kick Dillon out of the beach house. Dillon, carrying the heavy guilt of knowing parts of Ivy's secret and feeling like she wronged Elektra, made the heartbreaking, sacrificial decision to immediately pack her bags and move out. She looked Will in the eye and told him that their friendship was more important to her than any potential romance. And she vacated the premises to give Will a clear path to win Elektra back. But Dillon's story is far from over, and it is taking a deeply unsettling turn. Right after moving out, Dillon is sitting in the design office at Forrester Creations when she receives a terrifying phone call. A disguised, distorted voice on the other end of the line tells her, "It's me. We have some unfinished business." Dillon is left visibly shaken and completely on edge. Who on earth is calling her the internet is exploding with theories right now. Some fans are wildly speculating that Luna Nozawa might somehow be alive and is messing with Dillon from beyond the grave. But I think that is a massive red herring designed to distract us from the real truth.